Good evening, friends. We are in between this pandemic, and as per the last video, we have promised to give a video on home isolation. With me is Dr. Nandagopal, consultant pulmonologist from Institute of Lung Care, Hindustan Hospitals. So, friends, I'll be asking a couple of questions pertaining to the do's and don'ts in home quarantine, its eligibility criteria, and its monitoring criteria, and the way forward. With this in mind, I, from Doctors Classified as its chairman, applied to all the members and the followers, please wear mask, please have social distancing, and that's the only way forward. And with this, we get into the video today. The first question to Dr. Nandagopal is, sir, who are the patients eligible for home isolation and who are not? Your call, sir.
Greetings, Dr. Karthik Prabhu. This Omicron wave, predominantly it's going to be mild. There are going to be very few severe cases. So for the mild cases and asymptomatic contacts, we are recommending home isolation as per government guidelines. When we say asymptomatic, that means there are no symptoms. No, what do you mean by symptoms? Cough, fever, sore throat. Indications like this are medically called as symptoms, and patient or contacts of patients who don't have any symptoms but still tested positive are known to be asymptomatic. They are recommended for home isolation only. And also, there are patients who are mild patients. What do you mean by mild? The patients only having an upper respiratory symptoms like nasal congestion or a mild sore throat, throat congestion, maybe with fever for a couple of days, may not be with fever, and having an oxygen saturation more than 94%. These are the people who are considered as mild patients. The most important criteria here is that oxygen saturation more than 94% in room air. These are the patients who are eligible for home isolation. Not just this, they should have a requisite facility at their residence for self-isolation and quarantining for family contacts. So let's say there is a one-room dwelling residence in where there are 3 or 4 people are living along with an elderly person. In such a scenario, even in a mild asymptomatic patient, they should be better referred to a COVID care center or an isolation facility which is run by the government rather than sending them back home. So they should have a requisite facility for isolating themselves. And also there should be a assigned caregiver who's part of the family, who should be able to look after the patient from a safe distance with all safety measures. And the communication link should be established between the medical team and this caregiver. So these are the people who are eligible for home isolation. At the same time, I need to tell that there are certain people who are straight away not eligible, like patients who are suffering from immunocompromised status, transplant recipients, and people who are undergoing cancer therapy are not recommended for home isolation, and they will be recommended for home isolation, if at all, only after a proper evaluation by the treating medical officer and ascertaining that every condition is possible for their safe return to the hospital in case an emergency arises. There are in-between patients, elderly patients who are aged more than 60 years and those with comorbid conditions. These are all patients who have to be evaluated on case-to-case basis and decide on home isolation or on hospital-based treatment depending upon their symptoms, the possibility of a caregiver giving the good care to them, and the possibility of them coming back to hospital at a very early stage with a proper monitoring. So hope this clears the confusion among people who are all eligible for home isolation. All said and done, this home isolation has to be decided by a medical officer, should not be decided by the people themselves, thinking that, okay, I'll be at home, no need to do anything else. So this needs to be done, assessed, and finalized by the medical officer and reported also to the government authorities.
Thank you, sir. See, now you have elaborated what is the criteria for the patient for home isolation. Now, taking the fact that the patient is in home isolation, what is the right way to monitor and how many times to monitor their oxygen saturation and the temperature, the right way and the methodology, sir?
Yeah. So before even going to the oxygen saturation, there are again certain conditions for them at home isolation. So the patients must isolate, as I said, in a separate room, stay in that room and not come out to the common areas, even when other people are not there in those common areas. So that room ideally should have an attached toilet and a bathroom so that they don't need to come out for any other purpose. So if in case there are elderly people at home, particularly with comorbid conditions, they should particularly avoid going into that room at any cost. Only the assigned caregiver should go into that room if at all necessary with utmost care and follow all precautionary measures. And that room should be a well-ventilated room and windows should be kept open to allow fresh air circulation most of the time. And the patient should be wearing a face mask, usually a triple-layered surgical face mask, and the mask should be discarded every day, ideally after 8 hours, and if there is any soiling of mask, it should be done earlier. He should be taking proper rest. A lot of people equate home isolation with just rest. It's not so. They should take proper rest, not being viewing the screens, either big television or the mobile screens all the time. And they should also take rest and drink a lot of fluids to maintain adequate hydration. And they should not be sharing any of their utensils or other personal items with other people. And hand washing is also necessary. And these are all the common respiratory etiquettes to be followed during home isolation. At the same time, there are two important steps which needs to be done at home isolation. That is, number one is pulse oximetry, that is measuring the oxygen saturation. Number two is measuring the temperature. So temperature, at least it should be measured twice or thrice daily. Make sure that one of the criteria for discontinuing the isolation is going to be based on the temperature. So we need to make sure that the temperature is measured at least 3 times in a day with a proper thermometer, either a digital thermometer or even an infrared thermometer, but properly measured with the proper instructions. That's number one. Number two is even more important. That is measuring the oxygen saturation. This we have the finger pulse oximeters nowadays, everywhere it's available. So anybody who's at home isolation should ideally have a finger pulse oximeter at their home. The method to measure the finger pulse oximeter is that the hand should be properly cleaned and washed and dried. They should not be wearing any nail polish or any other covering over the nail, which may affect the reading. So once they fix it onto the fingers, ideally it should be on the middle finger. So if allow a few seconds, people usually they record the first value which comes on the pulse oximeter. Ideally, it should be allowed for 20 to 30 seconds. Allow the pulse oximeter to stabilize at a particular value, and that value should be noted down. So this should be noted down, both the temperature and the pulse oximeter. As far as oxygen saturation is concerned, I would suggest that also one more thing, they could walk inside that room for 5 to 6 minutes and take a measurement again after 5 to 6 minutes. This pulse oximetry will denote if there is any decrease in the oxygen saturation of more than 4% over the 5 to 6 minutes walking. That indicates that there is an ongoing disease inside the lungs. So they need to take more precaution and they need to come back to the hospital earlier. So this is about the precautionary measures. As Dr. Karthik Prabhu pointedly asked, These are the two important things. One is the temperature, second is the pulse oximeter.
Thank you, Dr. Nandagopal. You told regarding the saturation and the 6-minute walk test, which is two very important parameters regarding the prognosis of the patient and in the care and follow-up. Now, sir, for the caregivers, because when the patient is in home isolation, the family is emotional and they want to do the best for the patient. So now, how can they maintain hand hygiene, their masks, how it should be worn, how do they contract, they see the patient, and regarding that, what is your advice and instructions for the caregivers, sir?
There should be one assigned caregiver in the family who's a responsible person who can also communicate both to the patient and to the medical team. So this caregiver should enter the room as minimal as possible. I usually suggest my patient to keep a bucket of water with soap with lot of lather to be kept at the entrance. If there are any utensils or any clothes to be washed which cannot be done inside that room, the patient can put these clothes inside the bucket of water with soap so that they get disinfected within next few minutes, and then the caregiver can take them. This is one of the steps. And as much as possible, the caregiver should be leaving the food at the entrance of the room so that the patient can take it. So it is a little difficult emotionally not to see the patient for some time, but these are the steps to be taken. And when handling these items, the caregiver should be wearing a glove and a mask. In case the patient has to, the caregiver has to go into the patient's room, then both of them should be wearing a N95 mask, which is ideal. And as I earlier said, the room should be well ventilated, the window should be kept open, and that decreases the chance of infecting the caregiver. The other part is a lot of people tend to wear the mask wrongly. So even a surgical mask, if it is properly worn, it's good. So the N95 mask or the surgical mask, whatever the caregiver or the patient is wearing, they should not be touching the front portion. So they should be only handling the ear loop or the head loop portion, and they should not be touching the front portion at all. That's number one. Number two, if the mask gets wet, then they should be replacing it immediately. They should not be drying it and using it. Only cloth masks can be washed and reused. Both the triple layer surgical mask and the N95 mask should not be washed and they should not be reused if it gets soiled or wet. So if the mask has to be disposed, if the mask is to be taken off, if the mask is to be worn, and if there is any articles or utensils to be touched, they should be going for a hand hygiene immediately. As much as possible, they should be avoiding the touching of the facial features, either the nose, mouth, or the eyes, anywhere in the face, they should be avoiding. So if they're wearing the gloves, it will be much better. So going into the hand hygiene, if they can use soap and water properly lathered for at least 30 to 40 seconds, it will be much better. If not, they can use a hand rub. If the hands are visibly soiled, if it's soiled with something, then there's no point in using the hand rub alone. They should better to use the soap and water. So that will be easier. So this should be practically followed. The hand hygiene should be practically followed. If the caregiver is entering the patient's environment. Number two, the hand hygiene should be also practiced before and after preparing food, before eating, and after using the toilet, and whenever hands look dirty. And this hands and soap and washing or the hand rub should be done for at least 40 seconds. So keep a minute as a cutoff so that 40 seconds is within that. So I think I covered most of the aspects of caregivers.
Yes, sir. Now, you also covered upon the when the patient, how do they themselves can get exposed to the patient. You also told that by way of mask wearing and hand hygiene, sir. Now, when should the patient who is under home quarantine, if required, seek medical attention? They're already under the cover. they should be under the cover of a physician, but what are the warning signs and when they should seek medical attention?
Okay.
Admissions.
No, that's an excellent question. This is where many people falter, and people also falter during the second wave, which actually resulted in unfortunate misery for a lot of families and patients. So once at home, we need to be extra cautious because we know that medical care is going to be little distance away and this time away. So we need to seek medical attention earlier than later. So there are certain criteria when the patient has to come back into the hospital immediately or seek immediate attention, seek the help of a medical team, even over a telephone. There is an excellent app which is given by the government free of cost, eSanjeevani, or there are enough of telemedicine apps available in the private sector. So these are some of the tools which can be used to bring the patient back or seek attention with a doctor who is a qualified doctor who's treating COVID patients. So number one criteria should be unresolved high fever of more than 3 to 4 days, which is particularly more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If the patient is having difficulty in breathing, yes, no matter what, please come back to the hospital. If there is a decrease in oxygen saturation, when we are measuring oxygen saturation, when we are walking, which is reducing, and let's say the previous date was 96 and now we are seeing only 93 and 94, they have to come back. So any oxygen saturation less than 94, that means which was earlier better. So there are certain patients like COPD patients, some of my patients who are always having a saturation of only 91, 92. For them, these rules don't apply. I would rather say if there's a drop of more than 3 to 4% oxygen saturation, then they need to come back to the hospital and seek help immediately. The earlier treatment when done in these cases will be much better outcome. So the third point will be persistent pain or pressure in the chest. So if the patient is complaining of difficulty in breathing along with pain in the chest, that may be some of a cardiac or lung involvement may be increased. So they need to come back to the hospital. If the caregiver goes and sees the patient, he is in a less arousable state or he is confused, that means that there is a reduced oxygenation which has happened already and that there is some problem happened in between. So they need to come back to the hospital immediately. If the patient is complaining, okay, I can't even go to the bathroom. Suddenly I feel severely fatigued and there is a body pain which is making me lie down to the bed. I can't even get up and eat. So these are the few of the warning signs. So to reiterate again, increased temperature, decreasing oxygen saturation, difficulty in breathing, chest pain, chest constriction, mental confusion, and complaints of severe fatigue and myalgia, warning signs, don't delay, come back to the hospital immediately.
Yeah, that's a nice enumeration of what is the inclusion and exclusion criteria and how to monitor what are the warning signs. Now, my next question to you, sir. Suppose now the patient is in home isolation, he is feeling better, and he feels he's come out of the disease. When can he discontinue home isolation? Your suggestions for that, sir.
Yeah, thank you. This question has different answers at different times. In 2020, we were saying 14 days and further 7 days. In 2021, we are reduced it to 14 days and probably around 10 days. Now, the government has clearly said that according to the recent guidelines, after 7 days of testing positive, if the patient is having no fever for the past 3 successive days, then the home quarantining can end. But that doesn't mean that the patient should be stopping wearing masks. The patient should continue wearing masks for the next foreseeable period of time. Good thing is there is no need to retest after home isolation period. There are certain situations where during after this home quarantining ending, the patient needs to go for a international travel or for some other purpose. They may be needed to undergo retesting again, but for general purpose, no need to retest again. And asymptomatic contacts need not undergo COVID test. If people at home have had COVID and the recent guidelines suggest that asymptomatic contacts, patients who are, I mean, the contacts are in the family who are asymptomatic, they need not undergo testing at all. So this is the latest guideline, and please ensure that everyone in home quarantine follow this carefully and save your life and save your near and dear one's life too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nandagopal. You've been a pioneer in treating COVID patients since its inception. And I really appreciate your gesture to come to Doctors Classified channel and enumerate the steps, the process, and the way how it has to go further for our people and viewers and our mankind. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And we'll come back with the next video in Tamil. Thank you.